Shalom. First thing and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakakwadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and rule well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the whole elect. Those in this gospel broad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is another lesson through the Spirit. Lord's order to be edifying. This is an article that was sent a few days ago. It says Walmart, Target CEOs privately warned Trump tariffs could lead to empty shelves soon. There's a lot happening in America, aka Babylon the Great, with these tariffs, with job layoffs, and also with the repaying back of the student loan debts, which I believe by May 5th, the government is going to start garnishing wages if you don't have a payment plan already set up to pay them back. So with that being said, man, people getting ready to lose it because the cost of living is already high as hell. Food hasn't gone down. And now he's taking money from people when they don't have it in on top of that empty shelves. And we know Walmart is pretty much a place for broke people, man. Most people that can't afford high quality goods go to Walmart. And then you got, people that's well off that shop at Walmart too because they like to save money. But Walmart pretty much have everything you need in one center. So with that being said, 95% of the shit from Walmart is manufactured in China. And we know that America is in a major trade war with China, man, which they cannot win. You see? So anyway, this is a video here. I think it's going into the article, but I want to read the article as well. But let's see what the video is talking about.
30% from last year as American companies cancel their orders to avoid paying an extra 145%. In a closed-door meeting on Monday, the CEOs of Target and Walmart warned Trump that cancellations could lead to empty store shelves in a matter of weeks. And the International Monetary Fund has slashed its annual economic growth forecast for the U.S.
Trade policy uncertainty is literally off the charts.
Looking to reassure investors, Trump signaled today that negotiations with China are already underway.
Are you talking to them actively now?
Actively. Everything's active. Everybody wants to be a part of what we're doing.
But Trump's own Treasury Secretary told reporters the opposite, that no talks are scheduled. And the Chinese said they're waiting for the U.S. to make the first move.
很明确.
If you want to have negotiations, our door is open, a spokesperson said.
White House officials say there are 90 other countries lining up to make deals, but it's the China tariffs that have investors and businesses most worried. In fact, one GOP megadonor, Ken Griffin, said today this trade war has become, quote, nonsensical, and that the White House moves were too fast and too haphazard. Maurice.
Okay, Nancy Cordes at the White House, thank you.
It says the chief executives of Walmart and Target privately warned President Trump this week that his sweeping tariff policies could disrupt supply chains and lead to empty shelves in the coming weeks. Sources familiar with the White House meeting told CBS News. It says the CEO of Home Depot was also present at the Monday closed-door meeting. Closed door, right? It says AXOs was first to report on a retail executives warning Trump. But it says Target and Walmart, which are two major retailers in America, okay, Target being around for some time, and Walmart, but Target, is more expensive, but people shop at Target just like Walmart. They call it Target. But it says here, the following their meeting with Trump on Monday, both companies did issue statements. It says we've had a productive meeting with President Trump and his team and appreciated the opportunity to share. It says here to share. I lost my place, Salakia. I think I lost my place. Yep, to share our insights, Walmart said in a statement. It reads, Target in a similar statement said, we had a productive meeting with President Trump and our retail peers to discuss the path forward on trade and we remain committed to delivering value for American consumers. But it says the two retailers have publicly warned that Trump's tariffs can lead to higher prices, which, inflation is pretty much now is at a high. They said that this has, I won't say Great Depression levels, but, going back into the late 80s, You know, the tariffs haven't been as high for some time in 30-something plus years, man. You know, and soon to be hyperinflation, because inflation is pretty much when the price of the dollar collapse or when the price of goods appear to go up because of the weakening dollar. It's not the fact that it's worth more, but it's the fact that your purchasing power of the US dollar is losing significant value, which is all set up by design anyway. Okay, this is all set about to bring about what they call the Great Reset, to bring in that market of beast. So they're basically getting people who are mentally prepped to receive the chip, because they're going to take away from you and they're going to strip you down until you ain't got nothing, to the point you're begging for the chip. And that's pretty much the elites. Take away bread and circus, then pretty much you control the food, you control the people. And it says the two retailers have publicly warned Trump that tariffs could lead to higher prices. Weeks after Trump's election win, Walmart CFO John David Rainey told CNBC, "We never want to raise prices, but there probably will be cases where prices will go up for consumers." You know, and there's always the consumer that takes the hit. You know, never the rich, but just the consumers, which is pretty much us. The working class, the lower middle class, and the poor. You know, but Trump, he's not going to be affected by this. Bill Gates, you know, all these rich mo, they're not going to be affected by this, because they ain't got to take the hit. They ain't got to shop at Walmart like you jakes, man. You know, that's why it'd be wise for you brothers out there to get a little extra, you know, extra water, whatever you may need, non-perishables. You know, then just kind of stock yourself up a little bit. That way, push come to shove, you ain't got to be out there in the midst of madness to try to get what you need, man. Because I'm going to tell you one thing. When this shit falls and when the food is scarce, that's when you're going to see these Americans rise up. Okay, they're cool now because they got food. They still got a roof over their head and they got jobs they can slave at. But the minute you take that plastic fork and knife from their ass, hey, they going to start to lose it, man. This is why, hey, brothers, man, you got to be on your watch. Shit is getting ready to pop off. 2025, hey, who knows what this year may bring. But it says, at the last month, Target CEO Brian Cornell told the consumer will likely see price increases over the next couple of days from tariffs planned on imports from Mexico, noting Target heavily relies on Mexican produce to stock its grocery shelves in the winter, you know, like avocados and stuff like that, you know, particular onions, you know, avocados mainly, you know, they get a lot of that stuff from Mexico. But it says Trump administration has imposed 145% tariffs on Chinese goods. Damn. And I think it went up to like 245 before they called his bluff. And it says here 10% tariffs on most other countries. And that hurts the American people, because without the doubt, most of your products come from China. You know, like I could look on back. A matter of fact, let's see this shit. I was trying to find something. Got a Chinese label on it. Like if let me see this freaking remote control. Give me 1 second, Salaki. I'm trying to see something real quick, because usually I have a label on it and it would say made in China, made in Taiwan, made X, Y, and Z. Matter of fact, let's do this. Yep. I'm looking at my remote to my TV. Global manufacturing made in China. So the TV remote made in China. The universal remote made in China. You know, everything is made in China. And this is why Moab is so fucking rich, because he's got rich off you Americans, man. Manufacturing, because Esau has sold you people out. All right. But anyway, let's go from here to the book of 2nd Ezra 6. And I'm going to start at verses 18. It says, and it said, behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh and to visit them that dwell upon the earth. And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing Yahweh Bashim Yahushai visit this place through storms, tempests, judgments. People are crashing out, accidents at an all-time high. All right, people are losing their minds, man. Crashing out in broad daylight. And it says, and we begin to make inquisition of them. You know, what you go into inquisition is like an investigation almost. It says inquisition of them, what they have. It says what they be that have hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness, and the affliction of Zion should be fulfilled. So this is talking about the end of Esau's world, because Esau, he's hurting the people, mainly our people, with his unjust balances, man. you know, jacking up prices. 1% of the fucking elites own more than 99% of the wealth on the planet Earth. Like, make that make sense. You know, while these men are living in plushest mansions and underground bunkers, you're subjected to an 855 square foot apartment that you're probably paying every bit of $1,800 a month for. You can barely afford 2 bags of groceries throughout the month. You know, that's unjust. And it says, and when the world should begin to vanish away, shall be finished, then I will show these tokens, and the book should be opened before the firmament, and they should see all together. And that goes into us out there speaking on the streets, bringing out this truth, you know, because this truth is going global to the point can't nobody deny it. Everybody knows about the Israelites. And it says, and the children of a year old shall speak with their voices, and women with child shall bring forth untimely children of 3 or 4 months old, and they shall live up and be raised up. And I saw a video of 4-month-old baby trying to walk, man. You know, moving around, walking, trying to walk, just like, wow. That's how you know we're in those times. And it says, and suddenly should the sown places appear unsown, and the full storehouses should suddenly be found empty. So this could come within an instant. There was a video today that Apostle Tahar did about Portugal and Spain, how there were blackouts, how people were working in the dark, street lights are out, traffic lights are out. And, you know, he was going into the whole gas module, which, you know, gas is ran through electric pumps now, digital pumps, which is triggered through electricity. So if you don't have electricity, then you won't be able to engage in half the affairs you need, because everything is ran on electricity, man. Like back in the day, they had gas stoves when you can hook up the gas line, and, you know, if you got a little gas, even if you don't have a flame, so to speak, you could turn on an eye or the pilot and put a match under it or a lighter, and there you go. Off the gas, you get fire. So you're able to cook, but now everything is through smart meters, you know, with your heat, with your air, your electricity. Everything is pretty much electronic based. Even with the stoves, you got mainly electric stoves now, man. You know, so that's all by control. But it says, and suddenly should the sown places appear unsown, and the full storehouses should be suddenly found empty, and a trumpet should give a sound, and when every man heareth, they should suddenly be afraid. And this is why people are bugging out, man. Okay, people are literally losing their minds because they don't know what the future holds, man. And we've been warning people. We go out there to the streets every week, and we warn our people to tell them to get right with the Heavenly Father, because we ain't got that much time, man. Okay, this shit could really go down any day now, man. And if they don't fix shit within the next couple of weeks or month, hey, we could very well see chaos break out this summer, man. Because if shit goes up, hey, trust me, it's going to be a violent summer, regardless. So, hey, we got to stay locked in the spirit, man. You know, you brothers, watch your surroundings. You know, watch where you go. You go places, limit it to a couple of places. You know, always change up your routine. Never keep the same routine, man, because, hey, motherfuckers are out here lurking. They're watching. You know, if you're not in the spirit of discernment, then you will be caught up out here. And it reads, and it says, at that time, shall friends fight one against another like enemies, and the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein, and the springs and the fountains shall stand still. In 3 hours they should not run. Because like I mentioned, everything is going to come to a complete halt. So Trump, hey, he set you people up for failure. And it's really not him. It's really the elites, because he's just a puppet at the end of the day. Okay, Trump don't call no shots, man. He just do what the hell he's told because he's a fucking cheap suit. And this is what you idiotic Americans don't understand. Oh, Trump gonna come and fix things. Yeah, that was the script he gave you people. All right, it was never his job to fix a goddamn thing. And he's not gonna fix it, man. And it says here, and whoso remained from all these things that I have told thee should escape and shall see my salvation at the end of your world. All right, and we're at the end of Esau's world, because the scriptures say that Jacob is the beginning, Esau is the end of the world, Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. All right, and also this constitutes famine, pestilence. You know, like they got some shit now that they're not reporting on, talking about a more deadly outbreak than a sea. You know what? So yeah, man, we're in a time of judgment, prophecy. This is why, hey, prophecy, man. Not nobody trying to go overseas and do a goddamn land grab, man. Hey, this is the time to prophesy, because Yahweh commanded us to do it. So it says here, last month, Target CEO, matter of fact, I read that, it says the consumer will likely see price increase over the next couple of days from tariffs planned on imports from Mexico, noting Target heavily relies on Mexican produce to stock its grocery shelves in the winter. But it says here, the Trump administration has imposed 145% tariffs on Chinese goods and 10% tariffs on most other countries. But also, Trump announced a steep reciprocal tariff on dozens of U.S. trading partners earlier this month, but paused most of the non-China levies for 90 days. So he's paused the other shit. But with China, nope. And China is the one that hurts you the most. So it says, and the import duties have rattled markets in the recent weeks and prompted fears about rising consumer prices, slower economic growth, and supply chain shortfalls. It says the Trump administration has considered forming a workshop group to handle any strains on supply chains caused by China, but also he has stood by his tariff strategy, casting it as a way to boost U.S. manufacturing. What manufacturing, man? And stymie what he views as unfair trade practices. But he has indicated he would like to negotiate new trade deals with other countries. But also the president told reporters Tuesday he expects 145% China tariffs to come down substantially, but it won't be zero, man. All right. So he's basically playing with you people. And you people are sitting here not doing a goddamn thing about it. All right. And this can cause for famine, pestilence, because once the food is over with, that's when people are going to start going batshit crazy. All right. So this is the book of Psalms 105 and 16. It says, moreover, he called for a famine upon the land and he break the whole staff of bread, man. This is going into the land of Egypt. And when you go into the staff of bread, it's just talking about your food system, your economy, man. Because we know the American economy thrives heavily on bread and circuses, man. And this is why the people are such in a state of docility, man. All right. Because when you go to Revelation 18, it goes Revelation 18, and I'm going to start at verses, let's start at verses 11. And it says, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buy their merchandise anymore, right? Because once this place is totally hit with the missiles, you ain't going to be able to buy nothing here anyway, because everything is going to be totally burnt up. And it says, in a merchandise of gold and silver, which people are talking about investing in silver now. I mean, gold, you know. But it says here, the merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones of pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all fine wood and the manner of vessels of ivory and the manner of vessels of most precious wood and of thy brass and iron and marble. You know, and a lot of this shit they get from different countries. Because we understand that America is a consuming nation. They don't produce anything. It says in cinnamon and odors and ointments and even frankincense. And even if they did mass production of steel here, they'll make a killing if they was able to, you know, even, you know, incorporate the steel trade again, you know. Because, you know, everybody's building up. And he can charge on those particular products because it's a necessity. You know, because, hey, back in the early 1900s, those steel tycoons, man, prior to World War I, hey, they was very successful, but a lot of them took a hit during the time of the Great Depression. But it says here, it says the cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men and the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee. And all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them nor all, right? Because this place is ultimately going to get destroyed. It's going to get those ICBM nuclear missiles, man. And it says here, saying, it says, in the merchandise of those things which were made rich by her, the Chinese, you know, the other nations, standing afar off from the fear of our torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. It reads, for in 1 hour so great riches has come to naught. And every shipmaster, because we know America functions on the maritime law, and all the company in ships and sailors, and as many as trade by sea stood afar off, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? Okay, because they're not going to make that money no more. Because America is basically the cash cow of the fucking world, man. Where everybody here is suffering. Everybody else is getting rich off America, man. You know, because like Trump said, they're totally taking advantage of them. But you don't have no leverage in this trade war because your dollar's weakening and you have nothing to manufacture for real. You gave everything out, you know, going back into 1996, 97. Outsourcing became the heavily thing. Ezekiel 28:4 says, and with thy wisdom and with thy understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches Thou hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures, and by thy great wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased thy riches, and the heart is as lifted up because of thy riches, man. But Esau don't have that type of wisdom anymore, because I mean clearly he's fighting a losing battle. But it says, thus says the Lord Yahweh, because thou hast set in thy heart as the heart of a power. Behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defy thy brightness, and they shall bring thee down to the pit, and thou shalt die the deaths of them that are slain in the midst of the seas, man. Okay? Because ultimately your pride. So anyway, I'm going to end it, giving all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone. Blessings and salutation to the whole elect. Lord's will, you are edified. Until the next lesson. Shalom.